So I've been seeing a lot in the news recently about tinnitus and COVID. And, now they're saying that people are reporting that COVID is the source of their tinnitus, or the source of their tinnitus becoming louder. And something's interesting to me about it because I was reading before that the vaccine could possibly cause people's tinnitus to get louder or cause them to have tinnitus. And we see this, I think we see it really often in the tinnitus world of kind of like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, right? I say if you wear earplugs too much, you're going to be more aware of your tinnitus and all these things. I think myself as a musician, I really came up against that in getting really caught up in what the cause of my tinnitus was, because I am a musician, and it seemed like to continue to be a musician would only damage me more, but to give up being a musician would only keep me so much more present to this thing that I thought was going to ruin my life. And we get really lost and caught up in searching for the reasons for our tinnitus and the causes for it, but ultimately, more than not, we see that finding a reason or some cause for it doesn't deliver any source of relief. It's not like we find the cause and then we have a cure. It's not like we find the cause or the reason and then it goes away. We're just kind of left up against a wall still. And even more than that, I think the spiritual side of tinnitus, the spiritual malady that comes along with tinnitus, gets really ramped up in the sense that we start to try to control our lives really tightly. And I know I did that for a long time, trying to manage what I ate, what I drank, what I did, what I didn't do, all these things in order to try to manage my tinnitus, and it really left me so isolated. And I think isolation is obviously something that we're all experiencing in the quarantine, in COVID, with these things, and in that sense it almost makes sense to me that tinnitus would come along with it. So I want to talk about something a story that my father talks a lot about in the 12-step world, called the street light of reason. And so, say one night there's a man walking down a dark street, and on the corner under a streetlight he sees a drunk guy on his hands and knees searching for something. And the guy says, "Can I help you? What are you doing?" The guy says, "Oh, I lost my keys. I'm just trying to find them. I'm just trying to find my keys. I can't find them." And the guy says, "Well, okay, so I'll help you. Where'd you lose them?" The guy says, "Oh, well, I lost them down in that alley over there." So the guy says, "Well, okay, why are you looking here?" He says, "Well, this is where the light is." And I think that's kind of the mentality that we get when we're searching for these reasons, searching for these causes, right? We see a little opening of reason, a little opening of cause, and we get super tightly fixated on it. So, again, whether it was the vaccine or whether it's the COVID, we're always going to come up with something that is the source of our suffering. We're always going to look out into the physical world and come up with something that caused this, right? Because we just know it has to be something out there. But I say that in that model, which I say kind of like the mental physical model or the cognitive behavioral model, right? Where we experience something that we don't want to experience. Then we look out into the world and we say, well, what was it out there that started this? What was it that is the source of my suffering? I think philosophers like Nietzsche would call that a resentment. And in 12-step we say resentment is the source of all spiritual dis-ease, right? So we have tinnitus, we have this sensation, whether it's a sound, a feeling, all these things, and then we have our thought process about it, where we're searching for the reason and the cause so that we can figure out what to do and what not to do, and what to allow into our lives and what to kick out of our lives. But we find more often than not with tinnitus, it doesn't really actually relieve us. It doesn't actually give us any solution. But if I say that if we start to look at the spiritual malady of tinnitus, the thing that has us isolate ourselves from the world, right? Maybe we already felt isolated, and then the tinnitus came on, and it was like, well, now I have no choice, right? I know that was my experience. I was already feeling so isolated and alone, and then when the tinnitus came on, it was just like, well, of course, of course this would happen. I'm a musician, and of course I would get this condition, which comes into direct, contact with my fears of being a failure as a musician, right? It seemed like it was going to be the cause of my being a failure. But so in my practice, I really try to open up this spiritual malady, right, and look at it more clearly than we're usually willing to look at it, right? What were the beliefs and the things which predicated our tinnitus that it seemed to just kind of put the lid on it, right? We were already struggling, but then with the tinnitus, it was just, now we know our life's over, right? That's how it came up for me, at least, until I was able to really empty out this spiritual dis-ease, right? We have a dis-ease in our body, we have a dis-ease in our mind, and we also have a dis-ease in our spirit. And so that's my stance, and for me, it's made all the difference. It's allowed me to be with my tinnitus, and therefore my tinnitus lets me be. So I just want to share this in the sense of let's not get too caught up in these reasons, in these causes of tinnitus, because again, we see whether it was the vaccine that we were afraid of, well, now we're afraid of COVID, right? So it's really, again, it's like when we exist purely in this physical mental realm, we always seem to be in a damned if you do, damned if you don't type situation.